Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next Data Quest show. This time we're discussing the business of CX or customer experience. And to discuss this extremely interesting topic, we have with us Pradeep Pratinam, Chief Customer Officer at Freshworks. Welcome, Pradeep.
Hi, Sunil. How are you doing?
Yeah, we're fine. So I think I'll jump straight to it. So CX was not a term that we used to hear many years back. You still had user experience or UX, but CX is still, for you guys, of course, it's been around for ages, but for the, many of our readers, it's still a new term. So how would you explain CX to our readers and viewers, and what exactly is it and why is it so important?
Sure. So, just as the word is described, CX, it is about customer experience. And, this is the decade and of the customer, or the century of the customer, if you will, right? And back in the old days, when you heard the Sony analogy of the customer is king, today everybody has really realized that, starting from Amazon, that puts a seat for the customer inside every conference room. But customer experience is very important because of just how brands engage with consumers today. Every touch point of that engagement is important. And any friction in any of those touch points causes pain and a higher effort for a customer to engage with the business. And so in this true world of contactless customer service, this true world where there's pretty much contactless in this COVID era, customer experiences come to the forefront even more than ever before, because of the fact that today, your sales is remote, service is remote, and every aspect of your business is remote. And so, how you can digitally define customer experience and redefine the experiences that were done, in person to becoming more digital has become the core and forefront of every business today. And so it is exciting that we've been in that business for some time, and Freshdesk, enables businesses of all size to delight their users, delight their end users, delight their customers. And we have a suite of solutions actually offering that enable that.
You rightly mentioned about the pandemic. It has changed everything, because see, till 2019 the world was on a certain path, and last 2 years have been one roller coaster ride. And one term which is like thrown around is tech acceleration or technological acceleration, and that is actually taking place. So we are heading towards complete digitization, digitalization, digital transformation, whatever you may call it. So how important is it for any business to implement CX at the core of their strategy in this new environment? Would you say it's like without CX you're dead, you just cannot move forward?
Without a doubt. I think if you think about, the reason why I said putting the customer in the center and looking at all the touch points a business has with the customer and thinking about how to make them friction-free, how to make them digital, how to make them contactless. Those have become the core and forefronts of every business. It doesn't matter if you're a retail business, if you're a manufacturing business, if you're a B2B SaaS business, every business has to start thinking about putting customer experience as the core of their strategy. Today, when you think about digital transformation, the crux of digital transformation that's happening over the last 2 decades is happening at a much more accelerated pace in this decade, primarily because putting the customer at the center and thinking about how can you actually enable smarter ways to deliver self-service, automation in such a way that you take every friction point in your organization away from your customers and make it easy for customers to do business with you, right? And so CX is absolutely the core of every digital transformation strategy. And today we've seen implementation cycles, shrink from a year, 6 months to like months. I mean, in our case, when we talk about digital transformation for our customers, whether it's with our CRM suite or whether it's with our Freshdesk product and omnichannel suite, we find ourselves in a situation where we can implement these types of breakthrough digital transformation solutions in months, not in like years as it was done historically. And the promise of the cloud and SaaS-based solutions helps enable rapid onboarding, and with the ease of use, you can actually deliver these kinds of transformations to our customers in pretty rapid times.
Yeah, so that's what pretty exciting times in the CX
Yes.
field, and I mean, like you have talked so many changes and that. So probably then, what about the trends? So like, what are the latest CX business trends that have emerged in the last 2 years? And like, something about pandemic, people ask, this is permanent, this is a passing fad. So what are the CX business trends, and which of them will be cemented going forward?
Yeah, I think there are 3 or 4 trends I'll talk to you about. Like the first thing I would say is, customers and businesses are looking for ways to really have a omni-channel engagement with their customers. And so even in those omni-channels, between whether it was an email-based ticket or a messaging channel like chat or Messenger or WhatsApp, or was a phone-based channel, right? The shift to digital channels has become immense in the sense that businesses are thinking about really saying, how can we take more of the traffic that comes to phones and move them to digital channels? Because consumers, the other part is the consumer behavior has changed. Like, we're all used to using WhatsApp and Twitter and Instagram, and we want to actually engage with businesses in the same fashion, in terms of ease of use, in terms of the asynchronously sending it, a ticket or a text and waiting for a response to come back. And so that's the other part that's happened, right? The third is, I think, self-service. I mean, we all have now come to a place like, hey, I want to see my past orders. I want to see my past transactions. I want to be able to change my seat. I want to be able to get a refund. I want to be able to get an exchange. All of that, can I do it without having to talk to anyone? And so automation and bots becoming core part of a CX strategy has become very, very core in every business, right? And so businesses are now thinking about, like, what's the solution that I offer that brings in a high level of automation out of the box, right? The third area that I'm seeing a lot is around proactive side, which is, businesses and customer service businesses were essentially looking at them being back office, being like the goalkeeper, fielding queries, and now saying, can I be more proactive, by sending proactive messaging, and things like that we are seeing today, where they're just not seen as something, because the lines are blurring between sales and service. And so, especially in the contactless world, in the historical world, you had salespeople going and meeting and making pitches. In this new world, everything is digital. And so in that digital world, the lines are blurring between sales and service. And so seeing that 360-degree view of the customer for every part of the organization becomes paramount. So if you're in sales, if you're in marketing, if you're in finance, all entities need to access the customer record and be able to see that view. And not only that, you need to see all the history, all the transactions in any system that you may be operating. And so it may be your CRM, you want to see the receivables that a customer has or overdues. Or you may be inside of your help desk system, you want to see how many orders have they placed and which ones are shipping and where is it in transit, right? So seeing that view of that customer has become core. And so a big part of CX strategies is really around enabling that level of transformation, right? And then clearly the emergence of messaging, modern messaging has now become the core of how businesses are interacting with customers and consumers. You're seeing the rampant usage of WhatsApp and Apple Business Chat and those types of channels, where essentially were thought as being more social channels that you were engaging in, has now become core part and parcel of customer service businesses, as well as businesses in how they engage with their customers, right? And so these are just some of the trends that we are seeing in the marketplace. It's a very, very exciting time to be in the CX business, because we have a very holistic solution that really addresses everything from omni-channel to modern messaging to bots and automation. And we have a very easy and simple, easy to use solution that we offer to our customers that scales with your business. So whether you are a 5-person customer service entity to a 5,000-person customer entity, you can use our solutions and it scales and grows with you.
So I'll just ask a few follow-up questions, because I find one thing very fascinating. One is, like, you're talking of the omni-channel, then you're talking of digital channel. So basically it has to be like an omni-digital channel. It has to be
Yes,
at,
ma'am.
everything one place. And another thing is I've heard from a lot of people is this, blurring of silos, blurring of line, and that merging. Now there is no
Yeah.
sales, marketing, after sales and all. So somehow, I don't know, this is entering a CX singularity, where it's just one point where, customer only wants to see one thing, and you. So how is this? Is very daunting. It must be a real technological challenge. Are you using automation, AI? I mean, I don't know. Is
Yeah.
something like a CX singularity? How are you managing?
It's a fascinating time, right? Because even with the Great Resignation, what we're seeing is people have choices, right? Customer service centers are finding it hard to staff people. You're seeing people making the choice, especially in markets like US, like choosing to be a customer service agent, or do you be, what you call as the, living off the new economy, which is, do I do some work on, do I drive on an Uber or an Ola cab, or do I, do some work on the side? And people are basically living off this notion, saying, hey, what kind of roles do I want to play in my life, and how do I? And so staffing, training, onboarding employees in the customer service world has become very, very challenging, right? And so with that, you're also now thinking about automation as the core and foundation in every CX. And that's the reason why digital channels lend itself better to automation, right? Your phone has always had the IVR, but then nobody really wants to pick up the phone and wait on the phone, right? And so we're now seeing lots of modern solutions essentially saying like, hey, I want to really dial down, because the phone is an expensive medium too. Every time you pick up the phone and you call a customer service agent, it costs the business a lot of money, right? And so they're moving that shift, even though you want to make omnichannel available, because you want to say like, hey, there's an urgent pressing issue that needs immediate attention. I want to talk to someone. You want to be able to offer them that channel. However, to the extent possible, you're seeing a lot of this shift move over to digital channels, especially more of the modern messaging channels.
So it's like you've talked so much about, your customers and clients, and also the suits do you have. So can you give some examples of how your company and clients have implemented CX in their business strategies with good results? Of course, you can, if possible, name them. Otherwise, you can just talk about the strategy. That would be good enough.
Sure. So I'll talk about a few customers. We have customers. I'm just give you a few names in India that you're probably familiar with, like Lenskart, PhonePe, Dunzo, SuperDaily, that use our solutions. So we have businesses that use all the way companies like PhonePe that essentially get 70% deflection, which means that their automation is at such a level that 70% of customer service queries never get to an agent. They are responded to by a bot, right? And so now you can think about how efficient that business is. Now you can think about how cost efficient as well as customer efficient it is. And usually they've designed these workflows in such sophisticated manner that, hey, if it cannot be answered, it's more likely, going to be require, a much more detailed, involved analysis to get to the answer, right? So we have solutions like that. For Dunzo, similarly, the whole digital customer transformation in terms of how we can enable deliveries at that pace, and the promise of Dunzo today of what they offer in India. And so we have customers like that, and several other unicorns like Zomato, Delivery, Razorpay, Unacademy. So we have lots of amazing what you call as like unicorn brands out there that are using our solutions. That kind of tells you they're all absolutely on the cutting edge of technology, and the kinds of scenarios and solutions that deliver to consumers tells you how our product is being used in these markets.
So I think I've got a great overview. It's quite detailed. So I'll just probably ask one last question. So like at the very beginning, you explained CX to our readers and all. And as you said, it's going to be the decade of the customer, probably the decade of CX. So what advice do you have to maybe the business, how they should treat CX, how important it is, and what kind of solutions can say SMBs have? Because I think the big, is there any difference between how SMBs and large enterprises should, handle their customers, or is it all one size fits all nowadays?
I would say that, so there are two questions here, like what advice would I give to businesses about CX? And I think the boardrooms and to CEOs and the C-suite level folks that are there. This is going to be the fundamental differentiator for your brand and your business relative to your competitor. It's all the brand promises that are there today, and the branding and the exercise that you did investing in advertising to build your brand is going to get displaced by how you engage your customer, how you service your customer, how the various touch points you have, and how each of those touch points deliver a consistent user experience for your customer. And as a business, that's what is going to give them delight. You're going to be able to delight their customers and get a high NPS score. So that is very, very core. And if you're not thinking about your CX strategy more holistically, and if you're not thinking about how the various touch points come together and how you can see the customer at the center across your entire journey, I think this is where businesses that start new or your competitors who do this better will find themselves in a better place than you are. So that's a message for the C-suite and business decision makers. But the second question on SMB is an even more fascinating one, because what's happened is technology has essentially, in the SaaS industry, leveled the playing field. In the past, you had to invest millions of dollars of infrastructure, whether it's an Amazon or a large retailer in Walmart, they're building out this infrastructure and building out at scale and trying to think about their delivery and their shipping systems and how do you do that. Today, a small business essentially has amazing platforms where they can essentially, think about their core promise that they offer to their customer, and all the what I would call the building blocks of software can be stitched beautifully in a very, very easy to use manner in a plug and play. So, to think about it, you can take a simple start with a CRM like Freshworks CRM and give everybody a CDP, which is, a customer data platform that enables you to understand, who are your customers, how do you upsell, how do you cross-sell, how do you segment them. You have a Freshdesk solution, which basically allows a single view of the customer across, whether you see it from within the CRM or within see all the tickets. You can connect it to a shipping system. You can connect it to Shopify. And all I'm saying is, if you're a small business, you can stitch all of these pieces without having to think about investing millions of dollars of doing so. And this is all comes in pay-as-you-go SaaS business models, right? And so, for a very low cost, if you have a core promise and you believe there is a differentiation to what you bring to the table, for an SMB to be truly digitally efficient and to be offer the same level of service that you expect from an Amazon or from a large company that you think is like top-notch in customer service and customer experience, you can offer that today. And so that's the promise that we at Freshworks really believe that, hey, we can level the playing field for a lot of small businesses. We can make it easy for small businesses to compete. We can make it easy for them to stitch together all their technology solutions as it comes to employee experience, customer experience, CRM, and bring them a way to get them, to get ahead of business.
So I like that way to end it. I mean, the world continues to be flat, and there's a level playing field here also, and also that we are all customers. So I guess it's our decade also. So I would really like to thank you for all those insights, and a very important topic of CX is there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sunil. Pleasure.
Yeah.